So excited to be here this morning at the Green Kitchen in the new RVA Food Collab space. It's in the former space for Sur La Table here at Stony Point Fashion Park. I'm with Chef Tammy Brawley. Tammy, this is full circle. We talked a little bit at the beginning of the show, but like huge to be in this space.
It is full circle for me, Jess, and I appreciate y'all being here today. I love having you guys on site in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely full circle. I got my culinary start here in 2003, and now here we are 20 years later, back here. And today I want to show you guys how to make a delicious pesto. I don't know if you're aware of this, but pesto means mixture. You can use any leaf, any nut, any cheese you really, really want to. And when things are in season, I really like to take advantage of those. And right now we've got some gorgeous collard greens, so we're going to make a collard green pesto today.
Okay.
I've already chopped some of them up a little bit, but I'm going to show you guys. When you get the collard greens, you've got that really thick stem, and a couple different ways you can actually get rid of that stem. You don't want to put the stems in there. They're a little too tough and a little too bitter. So you can either fold your collard green in half, collard green leaf, and you can cut down right beside of that stem. And we can toss that in the compost or in the trash. And then you've got a nice thick leaf that does not have that stem. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is, I'm going to show you three ways. One, you can flatten the collard green leaf out and run right along the stem the same way. And then we're done with that. And then you've got still those beautiful leaves. Now the other way I liken to when I was growing up and my great-grandmother used to make me go pick my own switch. And you would take a leaf like this and simply pinch that leaf right off.
Okay.
So that's another way of doing it. So that brings back some kind of good memories, some maybe not so good.
And if you haven't taken yet the upcoming knife skills class that Tammy offers, you might use option number 3. But you have a knife skills class coming up on the 13th.
I do. Wednesday, March 13th at 6 o'clock. We're actually doing a little special. We're going to do a buy one, get one free. You pay for one spot. You can bring a buddy. And I'm going to teach you guys not only how to hold it, how to not how to sharpen, but we're going to hone them. And we're going to chop, slice, and dice. We're going to make a salsa and get your knife skills up to date. So we'd love to have anybody that wants to come to that. So now, the other thing I was mentioning a little while ago is I cannot stand a recipe that tells me to chop something and then put it in the food processor, because it's really going to do all the work. However, when you have a larger product that needs to go in the food processor, you would want to break it down somewhat. So for this, we're actually just going to do a little rough chop.
Just so you don't overwhelm the
Don't want to overwhelm the food processor. And I've got quite a bit in there right now, so I'm actually probably going to hold off on adding this batch.
Okay.
But let's go back to the pesto itself. Collard green, arugula, kale, they're all somewhat bitter. So one of the things you would want to add to this pesto would be some lemon juice. So we're going to add that. Now the other thing that I love to do is, it doesn't have to be pine nuts. Pine nuts are delicious, but they're very expensive. Very expensive. So whatever nut you might have in your house, and I actually like to keep mine in the freezer. I happen to have pecans today, so we're going to use pecans. So we're going to put some pecans in the food processor with some already rough chopped collard greens. And then we're going to put some Parmesan cheese. People say, well, how much? I'm like, well, I don't know. How much do you like? You know, so I like a lot. And then we're just going to toss that on the top there.
Now, Tammy, you were saying, of course, swap out the greens, swap out the nuts. Can you swap out the cheese? You
can. It's actually, I've made a vegan pesto before. So you can make a vegan Parmesan cheese using cashews, garlic powder, and a little bit of, I can't think of what else. Nutritional yeast.
Okay.
So that would make you an actual vegan cheese that you can put into a pesto that is not dairy, that is dairy-free, excuse me. Obviously, one staple for pesto is always garlic. Now, I've got 4 nice-sized cloves here, and I like garlic, so guess what? We're going to add it all in there.
All 4 go in.
And technically, I probably should have pushed those to the bottom as opposed to putting everything else on top, but we're going to be fine with that. So we're going to start processing it before we add our olive oil and the lemon juice.
And you do that really just to start breaking it up.
Start breaking it up. You can see it starting to break up on its own as well. Once it gets down to a certain texture, so to speak, I would turn it on completely.
And you pulse, because if you tried to process from the it wouldn't be as even.
You can see how beautiful this is coming together now. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to open it back up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my lemon juice in there.
And what a great way to use up, like let's say you had a recipe with the collard greens and then just didn't use them all.
Absolutely, great way to use them up. I actually, I tend to cook these very lightly when I cook them for meals. I will chiffonade them, make little strips, and we will saute them up with a little bit of onion and maybe some olive oil and salt and pepper. But when you get these, you get huge bunches at the markets and the grocery stores. You get them, and so you really want to try to use them up as much as you can. I love to make this pesto. It freezes very, very well. You can put it in a little Tupperware container, put it in your freezer, and it's great. Smell this, Jess. This is like...
I can smell it.
Oh my gosh, it smells so good.
It's beautiful.
So we've added some lemon juice. We're going to go ahead and add a little salt, some little kosher salt. Now you want to be aware of the salt because, one, the Parmesan cheese is somewhat salty, so you kind of want to go a little easy on it, and you want to taste it as you go. But now we're going to come back. We've added the lemon juice and some salt. Now I'm going to drizzle in some olive oil.
And again, you can do this just by, you know what, I've never seen this done. She's pouring it right on the little spinny gig, and then it like shoots it out.
It does my work for me.
I was always trying to shoot it into the side. Rookie mistake. Yeah, I see it just kind of splaying out now.
And so what you want to do is you want to check for the texture as well. You want to look at it, and it depends on what you're doing with it. Today we're actually going to toss it with some penne, as you see there, that we've already cooked for you. So for a penne, you might want it a little bit thinner or a little bit thicker. Really, the consistency is up to you. For a ribbon pasta like a fettuccine or a linguine, you might want it a little thinner, more saucy as opposed to dip. You can see that this is very thick.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice. It smells heavenly.
Do you make this now? Would you add? You make it right now, and we're going to use it. Is it better if it sits even for a day?
Not necessarily. I mean, it will be good tomorrow. It's going to be good for at least a couple of weeks in your refrigerator. But I tend to freeze it when I make a lot. Okay. But it does not have to sit for a while at all. Now, this is somewhat thick, so I'm actually going to come back with a little bit more olive oil. Okay. I want it to be a little bit saucier, so to speak. And that's something you'll get used to when you're making it, depending on the texture that you're looking for. And I've done this before with, not only have I done it with collard greens, but I've done it with kale. I've done it with arugula. Arugula is absolutely delicious because it's very peppery and everything. But I had a client one time years ago, Jess, I love this story. I was cooking collard greens because they were in season, and she was getting them 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and she calls me up. She said, you know, we're really tired of collard greens. I said, okay. So the following week I made a pesto and tossed it with pasta and gave that to her as one of her meals. And she called me that night. She goes, what was that pesto? That was so good. I said collard greens. Yeah. So she was kind of shocked at that. So now this is a beautiful consistency. You can see it's a little bit thinner than it was before.
We have about a minute and a half left, so you know where we are.
All right, good. So really what I'd like to do now is actually toss it with some penne.
Okay.
Now, I didn't do a pasta cooking lesson for you guys today. I don't think that was necessary. But typically about a 9-minute cook on whatever pasta you choose. If it's not going to be used right away, that's when I will toss it with a little olive oil. I actually do not put oil in my water when I cook my pasta. Tends to be what happens is then you go to apply a sauce to it and it slides off because you've made it slick. Here these are already cooked, they're cooled off and everything, so we're just going to come back to our pesto that we've done there. I'm going to glove up for this because it's just a little messy.
And another great chef hack. I wouldn't have known why or that you did that. So.
Yeah, but you know, Jess, you can put 10 different chefs in a room and get 10 different ways to do things. Cut onions, do pastas. When you're warming up a pan, some people say you should add the oil to a hot pan, and some chefs say no, you should add the oil or your fat to a cold pan. I add it to a cold pan and then I warm it up together. The most important thing is do not put a product into a cold fat in a pan. That is your most important thing when you cook. But again, 10 different chefs, 10 different ways to do things. Some go ahead and add oil to the water when it's boiling. That's something I choose not to. But because we weren't using it right away and I didn't want it to stick, I went ahead and added a little oil after it was done. So now I'm just going to toss in some of this delicious pesto.
And I asked you earlier about, you have the glove because you prefer this method that you're going to show us.
I do. I do like to get dirty in the kitchen, and to be quite honest, if we weren't on camera right now, I would do this barehanded. But because I have other things I want to make sure I get done, I want to go ahead and come in here with a gloved hand.
Putting it together.
Putting it together. You can see how pretty that is.
Absolutely.
Oh, it smells so good. I love the way this smells. Adding that lemon juice really brightens it right up. I have a fork for you, believe it or not, there.
Thank you very much.
How convenient. I love it. I want you to taste it and tell me what you think.
Sounds good. And I know I can hear Mr. Bevan salivating back in the studio right now because collard greens and pecans, those are perfect. I'm going to take a great princess bite. I do want to say, though, grand opening here at RVA Food CoLab coming up on the 14th of March. We're going to have all the information on our website, virginiathismorning.com. That knife skills class coming up on the 13th.
The previous night, yep.
Look for everything Tammy Brawley's doing at the Green Kitchen.
At the Green Kitchen.
On social, online, and thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here, Jess.
Congratulations. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Virginia This Morning.